But it was a great job, flying around in helicopters and jumping out and performing rescues. It was a great experience. I look back and everyone who made it, they all had just to deal with crazy adversity, even in a positive way. He just doesn't like the idea that he's going to get tortured in the cold water. The lesson I told my son is like, nobody likes a talented jerk. There are times where you need to put people into extremely negative situations and see if they have what it takes to deal with it alone. Your worst boss is your best teacher, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to learn and become a better manager, a better teacher. The insertion point was right on top of an enemy firing position. And turns out we had parked on an anti-tank mine. It just didn't go off. Like these old generals in the movies, like war is hell. And I was like, I guess it is, Before we showed up to Afghanistan in 2001, it was like a terrorist Disneyland.
Today we have Brandon Webb joining, who's a former Navy SEAL. He's a sniper instructor, or he used to be, and he's a book author nowadays, and I think a mentor as well. Am I right?
I wouldn't say. I mean, I'm mentoring my own kids who, like my oldest son has a tech company, but I'm still an entrepreneur. I have a media business, softrep.com.
And we have here also Thomas, who's a founder of Single Digit, which is like an extreme condition 12-hour camp, which I was taking part yesterday. And we're gonna talk to Brandon and discuss what he's doing. Brandon, what do you think about the 12-hour challenge, or how is it? What do you think about it? People joining that?
No, I think it's good. I was talking to Thomas that maybe just looking at my own experience, and when people go through Hell Week, it's 5.5 days, but generally most quit on Tuesday evening. So you start on a Sunday afternoon. So you have Sunday evening, Monday, and then Tuesday. So on the third cycle of darkness, it's when people are breaking the most. So I thought, Thomas brought me on as an advisor to Single Digit, and I said, well, maybe this is like an entry, almost a screening test, the 12 hours, and then you create a much harder program that's maybe, 36 hours, something like this, for people like yourself that wanna push hard, So, but yeah, I thought it was great, and especially it's great to see the young guys that did the program, 18, 19. For them, this is like a big deal. Probably the first time they've actually pushed hard at something, and it was great to see these guys come out with the confidence. I think it'll make a really positive impact on these guys.
I really felt the same. I told also to Thomas, because I'm kind of physically fit, and for me it was manageable, but the biggest benefit I saw was for the younger guys that really can understand how much they can do, right? And it can really push them forward and change their lives in a way as well. Which I enjoyed, that the guys were really open about what they're experiencing, what are their goals, and how to get further there, and how to progress. And
I would say one thing on that. I think globally as a society, there's been a lot of benefits culturally. I have Gen Z kids, but I feel like, there's this masculinity has gotten a bad rap, right? Anything toxic is bad. I don't care what it is. But being a man is okay, right? And doing hard things. But I think as a society, I've traveled quite extensively outside of the U.S. We're losing these things that are extremely hard, and now people are having to turn to the military, or these, you still find it in the extreme races, but in a general society, there's a lack of hardness. And then you get kids that are facing life, and their life is not easy. And so I think that these kind of programs are good for this, because it's vanishing, these hard things. And I see it all the time, these kids that are coming out of college or high school, and they just are not prepared for life, And when something happens to them that the three of us are like, well, that's not a big deal. It's devastating to these guys, because they've never experienced any adversity before. So
that's also what changed in me as well after I did some a kind of extreme stuff, that then once something comes up, you're like, oh, I already survived this, right? It's I can handle this stuff, and it really moves you forward as well in this one. And another one, I'm curious, what about like an ego? Because when we went through this 12-hour session, I was like, okay, for someone, if there's like a manager coming with a huge ego, he's not gonna survive that thing, right? He's gonna, why the fuck I'm doing this?
Yeah.
And I think you have to really go down with it and kind of accept what's coming.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, you see it the similar way.
Yeah.
And also, it's like, I see that when I talk to fighters, for example, or also talking to you, you don't have an ego up as well, right? You kind of know what you're capable of, and you kind of don't need to show off your ego. And
yeah, no, I see people with the big egos, and it's like, okay, I automatically know there's some insecurity happening there, right? Because I don't need, to puff my chest out, and I'm like comfortable with who I am. Yeah.
Brandon, when it comes to the Navy SEALs, how would you like explain it to someone, right? Because we all saw it from the movies, but we don't really know. We know it's like something elite, it's an army thing, but
yeah, I mean the background on the Navy SEALs, the SEALs stand for Sea, Air, Land. In this 1962, I believe, John F. Kennedy realized that the military didn't have this maritime clandestine or special operations capability, at least in the U.S. So he tasked the Navy with making a special operations unit. We had already a program in the Navy called underwater demolition teams. So these, if anyone's seen this movie, Saving Private Ryan, there's that opening beach scene where a guy is like tying explosives to that kind of metal, we call them Jap Scully, but it's probably not politically correct to say that, but these metal crossbars that are weighed down in concrete to prevent the landing crafts from coming ashore. So the UDTs, even though Saving Private Ryan had showed them in the daylight, typically what they would do is go swim at night, like in the middle of the night, take lead sounding lines, do a whole hydrographic survey of the beach. Any obstacles that are in the way, they'd tie explosives and blow them, and so the Marines could come land the next morning on like a D-Day. So the UDT guys had a pretty tough selection already, so they said, okay, let's take the UDT and create the SEALs. So they created SEAL Team 1 and 2, and then they created BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. So it was still a UDT pipeline, which stands for Underwater Demolition Team, and a SEAL pipeline. And after they finished selection, they would go either specialize in the demolitions or the SEALs. So, excuse me, that was the evolution of the SEALs. Over time, they started expanding, the odd teams on the West Coast. So you have 1, 3, 5, 7 today, East Coast, 2, 4, 6, 8. And yeah, that was it. So for me, I shared this before with you guys, but I was always wanted to be a pilot. That was like my dream as a boy, but I just through life and leaving home at a young age, I realized I didn't have the academics to get into that pipeline. And then I'd read a book about the SEALs. And because I had a background very young as a scuba diver, I said, okay, and I was very strong in the water. I said, okay, I can do this. And for me, it was something to prove to myself. I liked that it was extremely hard. Like typically still today, the failure rate is 90%. And so I joined the Navy.
90%?
90%, yeah. I joined the Navy in 1993. Today, you can get a contract direct to the SEALs, at least to get a shot. And the SEAL itself is now in the Navy, we call it a rating. So it's, but 10 years ago, you had to pick a regular Navy job and then try out for the SEALs. And then you would be a SEAL and you would still have your job rating that you would have to study for your exams for advancement. Well, they get rid of that because they realized that doesn't make sense. Like you're a SEAL, we should just make that a separate rating. But back then I had to choose a job. So I chose, I was a aircrew rescue swimmer and a anti-submarine warfare operator. So I learned like how to use a dipping sonar and studying all these like submarine characteristics from the Cold War era. But it was a great job, flying around in helicopters and jumping out and performing rescues. It was a great experience, but not what I joined for. But I did it for 3.5 years, and then I applied for selection. My first package was denied because they didn't want to let me go. They're like, no, this job is, we're undermanned. We can't let you. I was like, guys, I'm going to leave the Navy unless you let me try. So second package got approved. I went to SEAL training class 215 in 1997. And I think something like 226 started the program and 23 finished, about 7 months later.
What do you think is like the difference between those who don't finish and those who finish? What's like or can you see like some sort of difference in them?
It's a great question because I used to laugh because as a student, they'd survey us. They hire like McKinsey or Booz Allen to do these like, sir, what makes a guy make it through? And I'm like, guys, all you have to do is ask one question. Like, what adversity have you had in your life up to this point? And if the answer is weak, then the chances are they're not going to make it. Because it's all, I look back and everyone who made it, they all had just to deal with crazy adversity, even in a positive way. Like my teammate, Mike, grew up in Iowa. Like, had to get up. His family didn't have a lot of money. He had to work the family farm. So he's up at 4 a.m. doing like 2 hours of hard labor, eats breakfast, then he goes to school. Then there's a guy, John, was given up for adoption at 15 years old. He was homeless with his mother, living in like bus stations, and then got adopted by a wealthy family. But imagine going spending your teenage life homeless with your mom, and then the mom abandoned you because she's too embarrassed. She can't support the son. So, all these stories of adversity, but those are the, typically the guys that make it through. They have the mental tools to deal with hardship because, I remember this moment when I was, I'd shared with you guys before, but I was not, especially running shape, was in terrible running shape. I was not physically where I needed to be on the push-ups and the calisthenics. I could do the minimum, but the minimum was not even close to what you need to do. And so I spent the first, 4 weeks of my buds, just my body had completely broken down and I was like a disaster. And so I was getting all this extra attention and pressure. And then I remember coming in to Monday morning, it was cold morning. We have a PT on the beach at 5 a.m. And it's not going to be just PT. It's like surf torture. And I remember the fastest runner in our class, this guy would always finish the races early. The instructor's always heaping praises on him. And he's on the bench ready to quit. And I was like, why is this guy's quitting? And then I just realized it's mental. Like, if this guy has no problem physically, he just doesn't like the idea that he's going to get tortured in the cold water on a Monday morning. And so that for me, I was like, okay, it's just a mental game. So I'll be all right. I just need to suck it up and survive. And my body will slowly start to, recover, which it did. But they can break me mentally. I just knew that. And that was like a huge turning point for me.
You also said that there used to be 2,000 SEALs only, let's say, because that's not a large number. Why is it only 2,000? It's like...
Well, it used to be 1,100, and now they've doubled the numbers. But it's, it's hard to, we have only one training center in San Diego. It's hard to kind of get guys through you can't just snap your fingers and make a SEAL candidate, because it's also, BUDS is just the selection. Then you have 3 months of SEAL tactical training, and we lose probably another 10% there. Guys that are tough enough to get through SEAL training, but they can't quite, work in a dynamic environment where they're shooting live fire and in a very complicated situations. They just can't get it. And so these guys go away because they're unsafe. Like, the kill house is a very complicated environment. Imagine we're in a building now, and I don't know how many stories we climbed, but maybe 5 stories. Imagine 16 guys flowing up a building, peeling off into different rooms, live fire. And so this gets a lot of guys. And then once you make it through that, you go to a SEAL team, and then you're in a 12 to 18 month training cycle. And then you deploy overseas, and then you're kind of a SEAL. So it's a long time.
Wow. Okay.
And a lot of training, a lot of, even I talked to my youngest son about this because he was like super proud of the kid, but he made the basketball team in high school and he got kicked off. He was like the tallest kid on the team, very talented. The coach sent his mom and I an email and says, look, your son's the best player on my team, but he doesn't listen. He's cocky. And I have 50 kids ready to be coached that are motivated, and I can't have this distraction. So he got kicked off the team, and my son was devastated. But I was like, this is going to be a learning lesson for him. So I shared with him my story of my swim buddy, Rob, who was extremely selfish, like very talented, but selfish in many ways. And we ended up at the same team together. And he was cocky, and he didn't take feedback from his superiors, and he got sent back to the Navy. All of this. And I remember maybe 5 years later, my oldest son was like 3 years old, and I was taking him swimming we have this huge pool, like combat training tank. And I was taking him swimming just to have fun at my lunch break when I was a sniper instructor. And I looked down, and there's Rob going through BUD/S training all over again. And I was like, oh, is that you, Rob? And, made him do some push-ups. And, my son's giggling, and he's just, like, jumping in the pool. But this guy had to go through everything all over again because he couldn't keep his mouth shut. And the lesson I told my son is, like, nobody likes a talented jerk. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter whether you're playing sports, you're in the business environment. We've all seen the guy that has a lot of talent, but his ego is huge, and he just doesn't get along well with others. And nobody wants to work with that kind of person. Mm-hmm. And you see it in sports all the time. These dominant players, they just, they're just not good teammates. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's one of the stories I shared with my son. But the point is, being a SEAL, you have to like put your ego aside. And I've seen many guys that can't do that, and they get sent back to the regular Navy. I mean, I couldn't imagine going through BUD/S twice. Yeah. And also, I will say this, I don't know if you guys know Dan Bilzerian. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Went through BUD/S twice. He got kicked out twice for attitude. Mm-hmm. And him and I got into it years ago because he was kind of alluding that, oh, I'm a SEAL. I was like, no, you have no idea. Yeah, you made it through the selection, Hell Week, good on you. But you're not a SEAL, man. Like, that's just the starting point of your training is getting through the selection. It's another 2 years of specialized training and really earning your trident. And we have a saying, you have to earn your trident every day because you can't rest. I've seen guys that slack off. They've been in the team maybe 7-8 years. They get a major safety violation, gone. So you do have to like stay on your A game all the time. And I think for me, that's been a huge lesson and something I've taken into my professional life afterwards.
Is there also like someone during the training, right? Since it's like physically extremely hard, it's like, I guess, I don't know how it's about with the recovery as well. Because for example, after the 12-hour single digit, like I was doing fine, but I'm destroyed.
Yeah.
Like now my shoulders, everything, I can feel it so much.
Yeah.
But also like about the mental part, was there someone you talked to during the training, for example, like how you feel, or if you have, let's say, some problems during the training, right? Because I think it mentally gets to you as well.
Yeah.
Did you have some consultations as well, for example?
No, I was completely alone. And honestly, it was extremely tough because even, I was probably at the bottom of the class, like for sure. Because it's at times the mental pressure was extreme because they were like, okay, we're not going to let you on break, or we're not going to go to lunch until Webb does another 50 push-ups. And so now the whole class is looking at me, 200 guys, like, come on, motherfucker, like do your push-ups. And this extreme pressure. And my own swim buddy, this guy Rob, was like giving me shit at night, like, oh, why you do that? You're causing us to suffer. I'm like, there was no support at all. I was alone and had to deal with it, and luckily luckily, I figured out early that I just have to be mentally strong, and I had the confidence that I could just make it through. Now, when you get to the SEAL teams and you go to combat and you if you are in extreme situations, then you have resources available to you to talk about this kind of psychological trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and the thing is, Buds is designed, and there's times, and we can talk about this later with my experience in the sniper program. There are times where you need to put people into extremely negative situations and see if they have what it takes to deal with it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are times where, okay, these guys have been through that. Now we don't need to do that anymore. We can focus on the training. Our sniper program in the SEALs was largely in the beginning modeled after the Marine Corps course, which is an amazing program. Marines they have an incredible marksmanship training from the day one. But the sniper course is like a selection. So they were getting yelled at and put in like a boot camp environment. And we realized, why are we doing this to our guys? These guys have already been through Buds. They've been through, the SEAL teams. We're getting seasoned guys. We don't need to put them through a selection. We just need to train them properly. They're going to be under massive amounts of mental pressure anyway, because the tests are very hard. But that was a big change we made in the sniper program, because we realized it's just like, we don't need to do this. It's a waste of time.
How did you actually start, like, with going into the sniper direction, or what was like, let's go for that?
Yeah, so I was in my first platoon, Gulf platoon at SEAL Team 3, and we were doing an 18-month training cycle, and I would say about maybe we're 90% through, and at the time you had to like do a 6-month probation, and so the new guys, we'd all gotten our SEAL pin and got through probation, and my chief Dan came to me and says, he pulled me and this guy Glenn into the office. He says, like, hey guys, like, we need 2 snipers. We're short 2 guys. I'm sending you to sniper school because you guys are the best shots. It wasn't something I ever wanted, like, aspired to be. I thought it was cool. But he's like, you guys are going. And honestly, we were scared to death because we knew how hard it was. And we were still kind of new guys. And we're like, oh, if we don't finish this, it's not going to be good for our reputation, right? Mm-hmm. So we had a massive amount of pressure. Plus, back then, it was very uncommon to send new guys to this program. And so when we were there, the older guys are looking at us like, I waited 5 years for this, and you're just getting to go now. So there was that pressure. Eventually that bullshit goes away, but it was like the pressure was real, So, but that's how we made it. And like Glenn was an amazing partner. We ended up being a pair together. And yeah, so that was like the beginning of my sniper journey.
How hard was it to prove them like they're wrong, or like let them accept you, right, into let's say they're part of group?
Yeah, it was, again, when we went through the program, the instructors were kind of like sink or swim. They didn't really spend a lot of time with us. We had to kind of figure it out, which again was more pressure, which is not a good way to teach. I remember a couple of the guys were just kind of like, I'm like, this guy's like not a great instructor. Which when I became an instructor and took over as the head sniper instructor, I remember this and go, okay, we're going to teach much better. Mm-hmm. So it's like anything in life. Sometimes your worst boss is your best teacher, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to learn and become a better manager, a better teacher. So, yeah, it was, as far as like the peers that were giving us shit in the beginning, that lasted like a week, because then they're like suffering in their own, they're worried about their own scores, and it all goes away. But yeah, it was incredibly tough, but we both finished at the top of our class, and which sounds shocking, but we both thought any day we're gonna fail out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember I picked up we had the shooting phase and then the stalking phase. So we did all of our shooting tests back when we went through the program at this range in Northern California, camped out on the range, like lived on the range 7 days a week. And then we will go to Nyland in the desert for the stalking phase. And for some reason, I just picked, I think because I spearfished as a kid and hunted in the kelp forest. So I knew how to like put the sun between me and on my back, and like how to stalk tuna and like spear these fish. Because everyone was giving me a hard time because I became very good at stalking. And like I remember guys from Texas are like, what the hell is this like California kid? How come he's like kicking our ass on the stock field? Like, you grew up in California. You know? But I'm like, oh, actually, all the spearfishing I did has really helped me figure it out, because the stocks were designed so you have almost like, imagine 3 or 4 soccer pitches in a line, and you have the target at one end, you're starting at the other end. You have very clear boundaries, and now there's desert and some terrain and some vegetation. And they start the time, and you have 4 hours to get within 200 meters of the target, set up a position, camouflage everything, and then take a shot. And then the instructors would go hide, and they'd put up a target, and you'd have to take a shot. Well, your first one would be a blank, so they're watching you. Do they see any muzzle flash? And if you pass that, then they bunker down and you take a live shot. It's 4 hours, and it's like compressed time, and you have 2 snipers with high-powered optics looking for you, and they have 4 walkers wearing orange vests with walkie-talkies, radios, and they're like, hey, I have movement here. 5 steps forward, right face, 3 steps, sniper at your feet, and the guy's like, yes, fail. So it's super stressful, but so in the beginning they call time, and everyone's like on the ground, like inching along, and they're getting caught because they're just like, what I realize is they don't even know where the target is. So I'm like, I'm gonna get behind a bush or high ground, figure out where they are, and then I got them owned, because I'm just gonna put something between me and them and go as fast as possible. I remember my second stock, I figured this out. It's a 4-hour stock. I was in my position in 45 minutes, and they thought it was, and I fired the blank, and they thought I had an accidental discharge. They're like, no way someone's that fast. Because I'm like, I don't want to be waiting to the very end, because then it's like precious real estate. Guys are fighting for positions. But I figured it out very quick. But the funny thing is, Glenn, my partner, he comes up, he's like, I need your help. I'm like failing out. I'm not going to make it. And I'm like, okay, I gave him the whole strategy one time. This is what we're going to do. We got to find him, and then we just got to go for he's like, no, man, that's crazy. I was like, all right. And off I went. I think that was the time where I had the quick shot. And I literally took like 3-hour nap while everyone was doing their stock. But then I find out, I look at the scores. I'm like, dude, you're number 2 right behind me. What are you talking about, Glenn? It was just like, but the pressure is so high, right? Like we're at the top of the class. He's like, you need to help me. I'm failing out. I'm like, dude, you're fucking like a couple points from getting a top score from me, But anyway, it was a great time. But the sniper thing just opened up a lot of opportunities. I would finish with this, and then I'll shut up. It's strange to be so good at something you're not even that passionate about. It's a strange thing. I think maybe I see this in some athletes as well, because I never wanted, like, I enjoyed it, but I don't have like sniper rifles at home. I don't go to the range. It's just like, it was a job for me, and I just happened to be good at it.
What about like also like some sort of sleep, how to call it? Because what I experience, I feel like you go somewhere, it's like you're a sniper, you can be there for days, right? At the same spot, probably not even sleeping properly. Or how did you kind of train this as well?
No, you realize like sleep is important, right? And when we would go even on a recce mission in Afghanistan, usually it's 4 guys, and we you dig a hole in the side of a mountain, camouflage, and you're living in this thing for days, but you're rotating, on and off. So guys can rest and sleep, and because it's sleep is important for sure. We used to say sleep is a weapon, because it's so true. I mean, there's some guys that were like, no, we just power through. I was like, I don't want to be facing enemy contact, without sleep in that kind of blurry state. It's not a good position to be in.
That you have to be prepared and ready actually to act.
Yeah, I mean, when you're put in that situation in combat, or then you can deal with it. That's what Buds is for, so you don't mentally break down. You're like, okay, if I have to push myself, like the lone survivor story is a good example, right? Where they got compromised. Marcus Luttrell is days, evading, that's, he put that training to use. It's like, okay, I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to evade. And then he ended up with getting saved by the villager. But yeah, that's, you realize you can if you need to, but it's not something you just do, voluntarily.
Do you remember like how it was going for your like first mission, let's say, like now let's go, I finished this training camp, everything, I'm ready, and let's go for a mission? Like what's the feelings you're going through?
Yeah, it's, no, I would compare it how I feel skydiving. I really enjoyed parachuting in the military. But there's always this nervous anxiety right before you jump. But as soon as you jump, it's gone. And I had the same experience probably most of my combat missions. You're a little nervous. Okay, because especially inserting, because you're inserting. I remember we had this SEAL mission go terribly wrong. The guys, the intel, they told them the SEAL guys from SEAL Team 6 to insert on the side of a mountain. And they literally, the insertion point was right on top of an enemy firing position. As soon as they landed, they started taking, heavy machine gun fire. This guy, Neil Roberts, and the Air Force guy they were the first off the ramp of the CH-47. Helicopter started taking fire and took off, aborted the landing. These two guys fell out the back and were alone on this ridge taking heavy fire. A helicopter went down, actually ended up crashing. Then these guys went back to Bagram, and they're like, we got to go get our guys. And they went back in, and it was just like a brutal firefight. But so, yeah, you're like, okay, I hope I'm not going to insert like this, So it was always like a little bit of anxiety, and then you get over it. And a few times you come back from a mission, and you're like, you're kind of downloading, wow, that was intense. Like you feel like these feelings of fear and anxiety, but it's already after the fact.
Is it also probably because the preparation, since you went already
100%.
through so much and you're kind of ready for it, right?
100%. So we train so much harder than combat. So when you get into these situations, you're fully prepared. Like I hear the stories about soldiers, having anxiety and freezing up. That's not the special operations community. Like we train so hard. So when these things happen, I've not known one guy to kind of freeze up like this. It's because we train that hard for a reason, so we don't end up in these situations.
Did you have some, let's say, situations where you were kind of near to death?
I mean, yes. I mean, probably 4 or 5 times. Even when I was a SAR swimmer, we had a nighttime helicopter. We had a low speed crash in the water at night. I've had Afghanistan. We were on a training mission in Kandahar just to go sight in our heavy weapons. We parked. There was a video that, if people remember, after the 9/11 attacks, there was this Al-Qaeda training video, and the guys were on the monkey bars. That was a training camp called Tarnak Farms. We had completely destroyed this outside of Kandahar. We were using it as a training area to sight in weapons and test explosives. But they sent the EOD out there, and they're like, hey, it's clear, it's safe. Not so much, because we went to train there, and I remember I parked the lead Humvee, and I got out, and I looked at the back left tire, and I told Brad, our explosive ordnance disposal guy, who was attached to our SEAL platoon, I was like, Brad, that looks like det cord. And det cord is kind of like an explosive cord that links, say, C4 charges together. So it's a way to like set big charges all tied into one ring main. And I'm like, that looks like det cord. And he's like, oh shit. So he like cleared us out, and turns out we had parked on an anti-tank mine. It just didn't go off. And it was tied into 3 anti-personnel mines. I have a picture of it somewhere. I was like, whoa. And so we went back to the tactical operations center. It says, guys, like, it's either not clear or they're watching us and mining the area. Don't go back. And some guys didn't listen. They went back a week later, and one guy stepped on a mine and killed himself. So it was sad. So there was that. Time in Bagram were quick 5-minute QRF, which stands for Quick Reaction Force. Guys, I think it was a group of Rangers and SEALs. They got ambushed, helicopter crash. They're like, guys, get your gear up and like you're going. So we're on the helicopter waiting to go. I'm like, why aren't we taking off to get these guys? Rangers come out, like, and there's this big argument of like, no, we're the QRF, no, we're the QRF. And it turns out they were the primary for this unit. So we got off the helicopter. They get on. 15 minutes later, helicopter shot down, like half the crew dead. I was like, oh, that could have been us. I did a recce mission. We were out in the northern Afghanistan, and we had, I write about this in my first book, The Red Circle. We had a guy in my platoon that was kind of lazy, and we were supposed to insert before dawn, and on night vision, we had confiscated like local vehicles. We were living in this village on this hilltop, and we were getting sent out to like recce some enemy positions, me and another sniper. And we briefed the mission. I was like, okay, you guys got to tape up all the vehicle lights, because on any type of light source on night vision, it's just like blaring. Plus, we don't want to give away our position. So guess what? I wake up at 3 a.m. I load up the vehicle, and I look, fucking lights aren't taped. And I just like let this guy have it. And because now we have to insert, we can't use night vision, so we have to turn the lights on. So now we're like projecting our position. We insert, and typical insertion, you get out and you just quiet for 15 minutes listening, you know, because you want to see, is someone set up on us? Okay, then we start patrolling up. We do our mission, and then we come back. We're starting to patrol back now in the daylight to our extraction point, and we pass where we inserted, and there's like enemy fighting position, like 50 meters from where we inserted. And what we figured out was we'd woke the guys up, but it was like, and they had abandoned because they figured they were outnumbered, but had they woken up early enough, they would have like killed all of us. Yeah. And that was like a huge, I got even more pissed off, because I'm like, now this light situation, you like almost got us killed. They left like weapons, like hot teapots, like it was that situation. Whoa. I was like, whoa. They were, because these guys were kind of like roaming and trying to get into Pakistan. I'm like, that could have been very bad for us. So yeah, I can go on and on, like these these hairy situations over and over.
I'm wondering, like, if it's not really hard, you know, once you experience this, okay, this was a close call, to go back into it, right? Because what I think maybe I would do, but like, okay, fuck it, I want to live, right? I'm not coming back there.
Yeah, and even the biggest one, it was the opening scene to my book, The Red Circle. We were, same kind of mission, we're out. Initially, we went out to do battle damage assessment on these caves, because the C-130 gunships they dropped JDAMs and killed a bunch of guys. Like, okay, we're sending you guys in with a small group of Marines, so you guys can like do the battle damage assessment on this huge, massive cave complex. It was another terrorist training camp, and yeah, we would put the Marines on the outside perimeter so we could focus on the caves and not worry about getting ambushed. We kept finding all sorts of stuff in these caves, weapons, radios, even US radios from when the CIA was funding Osama bin Laden fighting the Soviets. Like, I have a picture somewhere, a recruiting poster that showed bin Laden's face and two kind of cheaply photoshopped planes crashing into the Twin Towers. Just all sorts of crazy stuff, intel everywhere. This was supposed to be I think 14-hour mission, ended up like 7-8 days, something like this, because that's when we ended up taking over this. It was an abandoned village, but we took it over because it had animals that we were eating, because we ran out of food and water, and we were operating out of this base. So we get tasked, hey, we killed some guys, 20 clicks away last night. We needed to go check it out. So we took a small squad with my platoon commander, Chris, who's now like running the NASA astronaut program. He's the second Navy SEAL astronaut. Chris Cassidy. Chris and I, we have a small squad. We get dropped early in the morning, and okay, we're at the spot. We patrol. okay, we're at kind of the spot we think we're within 100 meters. So we send 2 guys to go find the bodies, and we set a perimeter and kind of hunker down. Now the sun is coming up, and I see guys up on we're kind of in this low valley, and I see guys up here, maybe 500 meters, spilling out of this cave, heavily armed, and they're praying.
Mm-hmm.
And I point to Cassidy, and he's like, "Oh shit!" Because now we're like low ground, we're exposed, not a lot of places to go. And so, thankfully, we had these 2 Air Force combat controllers. They're like extremely proficient on the radio, and it's like the Air Force Special Ops guys that we had attached to us. So we get a B-52 on the radio, and I don't have a laser rangefinder because this was supposed to be a 14-hour mission. And Cassidy's like, "Look, I need you to like range that target and with a compass and guess, because we got to drop bombs danger close." And I'm thinking, okay, well, let me just like guess a little long rather than a little short. And as we were a minute to drop the first bomb, they saw us. I think that maybe not even us, but maybe they saw the other guys, and so we started a small exchange of fire. And again, like 400 or 500 meters with an M4, not extremely accurate, and their AK-47s definitely not accurate at that distance. But still, your bullets are flying at you. We're shooting back, and I'm like, "Fuck! I hope I guessed right." First one hits long, like I said, and so I immediately corrected 100 meters in. Second bomb took them all out. Like I think it was something like 23 guys. Even worse, they had the families with them. So like that minute for the second drop, we started hearing the wail of a baby, and I'm thinking, "Fuck! I'm having the birth of my son, like any day now." So that was pretty intense moment. But again, like that was I literally. You know, you watch all these movies, and it's like these old generals in the movies, like war is hell. And I was like, I guess it is, you know. But anyway, that was like a super tough moment, you know.
That's bringing me like up the question as well, because you get some directions, right, or like some calls which you have to do, and you sometimes might not even agree with them, right? You might think it's shit or something, but you have to do it anyways, right? Or
yeah, in this situation, I still to this day have no problem. Like they made the choice, they're shooting at us. They made the choice to bring the families, you know, and because that these guys were like. Before we showed up to Afghanistan in 2001, it was like a terrorist Disneyland. Training camps, they're living with the wives, they have multiple wives, and, you know, practicing their jihad. I'm like, you made that decision. You attacked us. We're here to do a job. I don't have any bad dreams about this, nothing. It's, I think also because I can rationalize it. But yeah, there were times when even this mission, where we had a senior officer come onto the mission last minute, and it was clear case of he wants to like check the box, you know, and get promoted. And he could see the look on our faces because we had this mission planned, everything was, and Cassidy says, "Hey, this guy, Lieutenant Commander so-and-so is going to be the ground force commander." And so he comes and he sees the look on our faces because he's also a SEAL, and we're just like, okay, really? Like, you're fucking useless to us right now. Don't worry, guys. I'm not going to get in the way. I'm going to let you do your job, blah, blah, blah. So we brief the mission. First thing he does is like, you guys need to wear body armor. And I'm like, are you fucking crazy? Like thinking this. And he could see the look again on our faces. And I'm thinking, you just told us 15 minutes ago you were not going to get in our business. And now you're like recommending we wear armor? Because this mission was insert by helicopter in the early morning, patrol 30 kilometers to the target, and then explore the caves. And we're at 8,000 feet elevation, not acclimated for this elevation at all, because at the time we were in Kandahar, which is like sea level or near sea level. And he's like, anyone have a problem with this? My hand goes up. I was like, look, sir, respectfully, I think that's a terrible idea. We're not acclimated for altitude. When we're like, I'll be fine because I'm a sniper and I have a light equipment load, but what about the breachers that are carrying explosives, steel hooligan tools? These guys are going to be smoked. Like they're going to be destroyed before they even get to the target. And anytime you're in this situation, your situational awareness is here, goes to like this. It's like next 1 foot, you know, you're just focused on the next foot in front of you. He's like, oh, I appreciate you bringing it up, but we're wearing armor. So guess what? I wore my vest. I took my plates out. No armor. Now we're on the mission. And we're like halfway to this cave complex. And literally, I remember Seth, the breacher. I'm like, how you doing, man? Like at one of our breaks, he's like, I just hope I step on a fucking landmine. Like I'm like miserable right now. I was like, I knew it. And next thing you know, Cassidy was like, hey, I just talked to the commander. Guys, we're going to take the armor off. And Cassidy looks at me. He's like, Webb, what? You're not going to take the armor? Because we're going to like stash it. I'm like, I'm not stupid enough to wear armor. He's like, you fucker. You know, he's like, I don't want to hear anything from you, you know, because he knew. I'm like, yeah, I didn't bring armor for a reason. I have like still like full energy. Like, let's go. And yeah, that was kind of a funny moment.
How heavy is the armor?
Maybe, I would say maybe 25 pounds.
12, 13
2
kilos,
plates.
something like that.
Yeah. So it's like as if you didn't need that. You have full ammunition, water, everything else, all your kit, and then you have to put this armor. Yeah, no thanks. And meanwhile, these guys are running around in sandals and wool robes, the AK-47, some water, and like bullets. You know.
How is it like with like eating and stuff, like getting back the energy, right? Because for me as a runner, you go around for 3 hours, you have your gels with you, everything.
Well, yeah, no,
right?
we have all that too. We have gels, food, everything. Another funny story from this mission, because we did the mission, we gathered all this intel, and then we're getting extracted back to Bagram. And you could hear the 53s coming at night. The sun had set, it's nighttime. And the helicopters are coming. We're like, oh, fuck, we can go home, thankfully. And the EOD guys bringing extra water, ton of extra water, because they're using it as shape charges. So you put the water and the explosives on top, and it will like push through a door, right? So it's extremely effective using this water. And I look over, and he's a huge bodybuilder, and he's like pouring out the water in the desert. And I was like, Steve, what are you doing? Well, I don't need the water anymore. It's like the helicopter's coming for us. It's like, give me it. He gave me all his water, and I topped up everything. My canteens, my Camelback. I'm like, give me another bottle. I chug it. I was like, I'm a desert warfare guy. You don't pour good bottled water on the fucking desert floor. Like, that's insanity. Then I remember we get another radio call, and it's what's his name? He was a captain at the time, and he ended up being a 1-star admiral, Harwood. And Harwood says, look, guys, I need you to stay out there another couple days. And I could see the look on Steve's face, and I'm like sipping my water. And he just realized he dumped everything. And I'm like, have fun with the iodine tablets, you know, purifying that nasty well water, because that's what he had to do. But yeah, I was like, lesson learned, buddy.
Is it like, how was he doing, like as a bodybuilder there as well?
He was like not good. Yeah. He actually, our chief at the time, we had a really great chief, Chris, who was also kind of like a legend in the teams, because he was as a young SEAL, was on the swimmer pair. When we had all this crazy shit happen in Panama, he blew up Noriega's boat, like did a full like dragger underwater mission, you know, looking up, seeing the bad guys, you know, through the water, and like plant explosives on Noriega, and blew the hell out of this boat in the Panama Canal. I remember before he went to Afghanistan, I helped him move, and I'm like, why do you have this like shitty steering wheel in the garage? He's like, oh, that's like Noriega's. I was like, it was kind of cool. And Chris didn't suffer any fools, but Steve started complaining, our EOD guy, and he's like, look, I don't want to hear one more word out of your mouth, or I'm going to put a bullet in your head. Like, you're a fucking liability to all of us. Like, keep it shut. And then out of fear, he just like got it. But yeah, he was in he was just like, yeah, he could carry a lot for a very short distance, had no endurance, and was a complainer until Chief told him he was going to shoot him and leave him in the ditch, which we all kind of like agreed on. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I mean, as an endurance guy,
it's what
packing on that weight is
also we had on the challenge, right? There was the guy, he was like big, strong, and he was still like as the strongest for a few hours, right? It was obvious. He's like the body is not made for it, right? It's
exactly.
Coming to when you got the sniper instructor, how did happen that you kind of transferred to this one? Did you apply for it, or did someone approach you?
Typically how it works is we have a SEAL that's kind of we have sea duty and shore duty. So shore duty in the Navy is you kind of take a break. It's time to like not deploy. And usually it's 5 years heavy rotation operationally, and then 4 years shore duty. So you can take a break, spend time with the family. So one of the shore duty billets was a job detailer. So this guy's whole job is to go, okay, this team needs more guys. This, the unit in Germany needs 2 guys, and he would like fill these holes, and you call the detailer, hey, I want to go to Hawaii, or I want to go to there. And if you have a good reputation, generally he tries to work with you. If you don't have a good reputation, you go wherever the hell they need you. And I was looking forward to I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break and be a BUDS instructor because I wanted to finish my bachelor's degree. And I was in Afghanistan, and then when I came back, they had built up a new training command. They consolidated. The training used to be at the individual teams, and they say, okay, for standardization, let's create a training command so the training is more centralized and everyone's on the same sheet of music. And so I got assigned a training command without me even knowing when I got back, because it's like the war is happening and it's a lot of things are changing. And then I got Jason Gardner, who is still an amazing friend to this day. He was also one of the early SEALs. You see him in these Discovery documentaries. Was like shooting guys in Somalia with a 50 cal. And he's a funny guy. Like I remember even on the documentary, he was like, yeah, I was like, took a shot, at this guy, these 2 bad guys, and 1,000 meters, high wind. He's like, only maybe a few guys in the world could make this shot. And it wasn't me, because he's like, I aimed at the guy and I hit his friend and blew his shoulder off, Jason's funny. But he recruited me to be in the sniper cell. And it was a small group of guys that were in charge of advanced sniper training. And it was amazing time. Then I was teaching helicopter sniper and an urban sniper to the already like the snipers in the SEAL community on the West Coast. And then I got a call from a guy that the shop got a call, and he's like, hey, I know Webb and this other guy, Davis, they have some real operational experience. Can I borrow these guys to the sniper course? Because we're redoing our whole curriculum. We're upgrading it with technology. We want to teach better. Back to the point I talked about with we had more of that Marine boot camp style sniper course. We're like, no, we get rid of this. How do we teach better? We started integrating the mental management. So I went down there and helped with the pilot. And then the guy was in charge of the West Coast program, Bob, amazing guy, Dev Group SEAL Team 6 guy. He's like, hey, I really want you to come down here. Like, I need a guy like you to kind of run this program. And I'm like, wow, I got to give up my like bachelor degree and time with the family. And he's like, we kind of need you. It's the war. And I felt like, okay, I need to give back to the guys. Mm-hmm. So I took the job, and then Bob ended up retiring, and he promoted me to course manager, which ensured that I got an automatic promotion, because I had been meritoriously promoted a rank recently, and then he gave me a job that was 2 ranks higher than my current rank. So it was like a guarantee that they have to promote me, right? Mm-hmm. And so that happened. I became a chief, very young chief, like 28. And then, I was a head sniper instructor. And that was my kind of, was one of the most rewarding times in my career. but also like brutally demanding. Like I was working 90 hours a week, traveling to middle of America because we had to move our whole course because we couldn't find places to train in California, like stable training grounds. And yeah, my marriage was suffering. At the end, I ended up choosing family and leaving the Navy, but I had, no regrets. It was an amazing job. And then full circle, I had got my supervisor to let me take pilot training. So I ended up getting my pilot's instrument rating, which was amazing. And then I left the Navy in 2006.
When it comes to a sniper instructor, you think you had something extra that made you like a good sniper instructor, or why did it like choose you or ask you to do so?
I think I had a rare, not rare, but I had a combination of skills and, I've seen leaders in life or managers that are super charismatic. I would not call myself one of those. I was very hard. I had instructors that wouldn't want to tell guys that they fail and sent them home. I could have those conversations. Not to be a jerk or a dick, but I'm like, okay, that's just part of the job. I have to, it's one thing I loved about the SEAL community is radical candor. You fuck up, you own it, you talk about it and fix it. But still, it's like firing your first employee as an entrepreneur. It's uncomfortable. But I was like super disciplined and organized, and I think that's why Bob maybe chose me, because he knew I wasn't gonna like have a problem doing the job. Because it's tough. Even I didn't like sending guys home because they was devastated. These guys had like sacrificed so much and they just didn't make the course. I'm like, guys, you have to pack your bags. But yeah, but my point is like I wasn't one of these super charismatic leaders, which I admire these guys. Like, but I was a hard ass for sure. It was something I had to deal with as a manager outside of the military, because I'm making like civilians cry. Like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I have to be a little bit more of a soft touch to my management style.
Since you saw like a lot of people to succeed and fail, right? You said at the beginning that there is like some points you need to have to achieve something, also like in the training. Do you like, when you talk to someone, can you like somehow recognize, okay, he's gonna make it? For example, even at the 12-hour challenge, when someone's like talking like, I guess, okay, this guy has the things to do it, to finish it?
No, I think I've got good at the guys that I could see the guys that were maybe by process of elimination. I could see the guys for sure. The first guy that quit, I knew the moment he walked in the room with the hood on, this guy's probably going to be for sure he's gone. And he ended up being the first. I could see that quickly. And then you kind of just don't know like who's gonna have what it takes. Because even the guy that we gave that second award to, he was wavering. He was really wavering and really having a hard time. That's why I respect that he pushed through, because he thought I'm weak, I'm holding everyone back. And Thomas had a talk with him, and he's like, no, I'm gonna keep going, So
it's even the group pushed him as well, which was good. And it was good.
Because probably the group turns on him and he's out. He's gonna quit.
Yeah, I was scared at the end. There was like, okay, now we're gonna run the 6K. I was like, okay, we're wasted. What we gonna do with him, right? As well, because he would not be able to run.
He was done.
Yeah. What about when you ended? Like you started when you ended like in the army, right? What was like the point? What did you start as? What was the time after you ended? Like was it like, okay, now I'm gonna chill for a half year with the family? And
no, my decision, because I had been promoted again, and the promotion I got is like extremely hard to get in the SEALs, and but I knew I was burned out. I knew I needed to take a break. And my deal I made with myself was I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to work. And I can always come back. Like they were extremely undermanned. They were offering me crazy money. For me, at the time, it was crazy money, like bonus-wise to stay. But I'm like, guys, I just got to take a break. And I'm like, in a year, I can come back, no problem. And I said, let me just give this civilian thing a try. And then, I never came back. But and the transition was tough because you lose. I talk about this in that fireside chat the other day with you guys, you lose that network. You're completely on your own, which I think also I've written about this. I've talked about it on other podcasts before. I feel like the SEAL community especially needs to do a better job creating an alumni network and a support system for guys, because they're out and it's dog eat dog. You have these highly competitive guys. They're like, oh, you got a book deal? Fuck you. I'm going to get a book. Oh, you only did 5 combat deployments. I did 15. Fuck you. Who are you? It's just crazy. I'm like, guys, take it easy, you know? But it's extremely competitive in a bad way. And the guys, some guys that even worse, they get into drugs and alcohol, and they don't have this support system in a positive environment. For me, I was lucky. I found first the Entrepreneurs Organization. So I got this like instant plug into community, and we're all about, you know, Thomas knows because he's in the EOs himself. It's a great community. It's about being vulnerable and supporting growth, learning. So I was lucky. I got into like these support systems and kind of rebuilt that back. But it was super challenging. Yeah. And then you go from this community where you just, it has trust baked in. You know, even if guys aren't trustworthy, the SEALs will create an environment. Like if you break trust, you're out. And so you know that you can trust everybody in that case. But now I'm out and I'm like hiring a guy to re-roof my garage, and he just takes the money and goes, and I like knock on his door at, you know, 6 a.m. Like, what the hell? You know, it's just like I'm like, how could you do this? Oh, I have a family. I'm suffering. I'm like, well, I have a fucking family too, you know? So you just realize, wow, like the real world is very different. So yeah, it was a shock to me, because I imagine also why it's, you watch these movies and hear these stories about guys getting out of prison, and then they break the law just to go back because they want that. They're desperate for that routine, and that's what it felt like for me. I'm like, whoa, I had 13 years in the Navy. It's very structured, and now you're just completely in a totally different environment. And so yeah, it was challenging.
How long did it take you to normalize, when I'm gonna call it this way? You know, like to get into like the normal, like get this.
Yeah, probably 5-6 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I was expecting you to say months. And
No, I lost a business during the 2008 crisis, divorce. You know, it was a lot. Yeah, I was like, but I knew that I was also highly marketable to defense industry. When I lost my first business and my life savings and divorce, I ended up working for a big defense company and great money. But then I knew like I was extremely marketable. And yeah, I worked for a defense company 2 years. It was a great learning experience. But it also showed me I did not want to be in an office environment. And also that I would like, I remember I was managing a $40 million classified radio program for this company, which was probably like 40% of their P&L. And I had grown this substantially, over doubled it. And they're like, and come after like a 2-week trip, and they're like, why aren't you in the office today? I'm like, because I just spent 2 fucking weeks on the road and like did my job, and like the results are there. I'm not coming in. I landed last night at fucking midnight. You know, I would like, I gave them a little bit of the SEAL talk, and they're like, okay, I'll like back off. But it was just always this pressure, you know. I kept a tight beard and would shave, and they're like, I get whispers from the engineer, hey, can you see if Brandon will shave this beard? Because my boss didn't. He was too afraid to ask me. I was like, no, because I'm walking into these special operations units. I'm not going like you guys, like clean shaven in a suit and tie. Like they're going to freak out, you know? So anyway, it was just kind of funny in the corporate world. I remember also this guy, I met this Marine colonel who was just like exactly how a Marine colonel you think in your head would be. And yeah, he's like, oh yeah, I struggled in the corporate environment. He was on the board of this big company, and he got in an argument with a guy and like beat the shit out of him in the boardroom. And they're like, you can't do that. Like had him by the throat, you know? And they're like, yeah, we can't do this around here. You know, this is not the Marine Corps anymore. HR is like, you gotta go. You know? It was just funny.
I'm wondering that you actually didn't go the direction also like about teaching, mentoring people, right? Because that works very often for companies as well. I know people that are doing, let's say, some sort of extreme stuff, which teaches them a lot with their mental and so on. They share their experiences, right? But you kind of did it in a different way with going through the books, right? That's what I think, like sharing your experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I started writing more as like it was like almost like a therapeutic outlet just to get it off. And I really wanted, because I was a divorced dad, I'm like, I wanted to document, and I kept notes because one thing I appreciate about my mother is she made my sister and I journal relentlessly. And I journaled in Afghanistan. I was, even before coming to Prague, I had my box, I was taking out the Afghanistan note, and I saw there's my 2 journals from Afghanistan. I'm flipping through and seeing all my notes. So I wanted to like document this so one day my kids could read it and see what their mom and I had went through.
Mm-hmm.
And so it started there, and then as that book did well, I'm like, okay, I'm building an audience. What else can I contribute? And so I started writing, about different topics, and probably the Mastering Fear was the most. I talked about the mental management. That book has been translated. I think it's even in Czech.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Russian, Ukrainian, Chinese, multiple languages. But that was a good book. But yeah, my parents were also entrepreneurs, so I knew I wanted to go down this path. And I've been an author and an entrepreneur ever since.
Mm-hmm.
There was times where I stopped writing. I'm like, I don't feel like I have anything to contribute. And then years go by, and I'm like, I feel like I got another book in me. And that's what brought me to this parenting book, Puddle Jumpers. It was because I had kids at such a young age. I had a good relationship with their mom. We raised great kids, and they're not perfect. Like, I talk about all sorts of crazy stories in there, but it became clear to me, because I kept getting asked by people in EO and the Young Presidents organization I belong to. I went to Harvard Business School, the HBS community. I'd bring my kids who were 18, 19 to class with me, and they're like, oh my God, like, your kids are really like just competent, nice, happy. What do we do? I have young kids. Like, please tell me, share. And then I started telling him, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can write a book about this, because I used a lot of the mental management on my kids, whether they know it or not, and a lot of like principles from the EO and business community about learning, because I always made sure to surround them with good people, get them mentors when they're in graduating high school, give them reading lists, use the leverage I had at the time where, like, you want a cell phone, you want the new iPhone, well, you need to read these 4 books, these biographies, and give me a report. And so all this stuff, pushing them to go on adventures, creating, kids. Like when my oldest was 15, he's like, Dad, I want to go to Morocco and I want to study Spanish at an immersion course in the south of Spain. He's like agenda'd the whole thing. I'm like, okay, if your mom says yes, let's go for it. I don't know too many 15-year-olds that would, ask to like go across to Europe and leave the US to go study in Spain on their own, And so I'm glad my kids are really independent. And they're for sure doing what they want, not what their mom and I want them to do. It's like they found their own passion. And so anyway, but that's why I wrote the parenting book.
So is there like a way you have to lead the kids to get somewhere, but let them do their
I think decisions? The best thing you can do as a parent is expose your children to many different things in life: travel, culture, jobs, activities. I think I remember the first time I found my daughter really had an artistic talent was I put him in this multidisciplinary camp one summer in San Diego. It was like sailing, drama, art, all these different things, language. And I had the art teacher when I picked up the kids, and she's like, hey, your daughter is very talented. I'm like, really? Like, what? She showed me the picture. I was like, well, not bad. And, as a parent, you're always like, oh, my kid's the best. But she said, look, I think if she's interested, you should encourage this. And so I started to encourage my daughter. And then 16 years old, she gets a collaboration with Puma. They're paying her $1,000 a day to be an in-store artist in New York City. And that's a huge confidence booster for a 16-year-old girl to be like working 12 hours a day painting shoes and for clients. It was a great experience, and it really built her confidence and her portfolio. So when she graduated, she had an amazing portfolio and got into every school she applied for. But the point is, as a parent, expose them to all these different things, see what they gravitate to, and kind of support it. And
isn't there like a deal of some sort of protection that the parents tend to protect the kids, right? And that means also not letting them go somewhere where
100%.
they should go, right?
That's I think the biggest mistake parents make, and it comes from a place of care and love, but it's a disaster for the kids because you're robbing them of these valuable life tools, for sure. And that's why, again, I wrote this book. I was so shocked at how many, like, very financially successful parents that were obviously love and care about their children, but they were just messing it up. I'm like, guys, you got to stop doing this. You know, you're creating, like, your kids are in a bubble. And I tell a story in the beginning of the book. There was an experiment in the 90s in Arizona. They created this biosphere and what it would be like to colonize Mars. And they're living in this sphere for like 1-2 years, these scientists, and they're growing vegetables and they were growing trees. And they realized the trees would grow and then fall over. And they're like, what is happening? Then they realized the roots weren't strong because they had no stress. They needed the stress of outside wind and outside environment, tiny little stress to build strong roots, and kids are exactly the same. They need the stress to grow strong, or else you put them in the real world. And we've all seen, you know, these, or, you know, peers and older kids that aren't prepared, and it's like a smallest thing, and it's like a disaster for them. So yeah, parents. So I share my own kind of parenting experience and the things we made, and like plenty of mistakes as well. But overall, we raised extremely happy, confident kids that are like chasing their dreams and not the dreams that I wished I had have done. You know,
comes also down to let the kids fail, I guess, right? Because from when you fail, you learn, right? And sometimes the people tend to protect them from failing, right? And
then I think parents over-advocate for the kids. In the case where my youngest got kicked off the basketball team, I know a lot of parents would have went to the principal, pulled the coach, yelled, screamed, got the kid put back on the team. And I'm like, that's not going to help him. I need to use this as a real good opportunity to teach him about life. And look, when he went the second year in high school and made the team again, coach sent his mom and I another email, which I actually printed in the book. He was like, I thank you first for like listening to me, taking the advice, because most parents wouldn't. They would like start yelling at me. He's like, and whatever you guys did, your kid is a different kid. Like, he's like thoughtful, great teammate, you know, very, you know, totally different player. Like, he's a pleasure to have around. He's like, thank you for whatever you did. So, and that's the difference. Because if we just were like, no, you deserve to be on this team, you're talented, then he turns into a freaking monster, you know, and we didn't want this.
All right. I think we went through everything. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Thomas, as well. And
yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah. Thomas, man of a few words over there.
I was curious. I'm extremely curious. And to me, it's all these situations you don't really ask in the normal life, I have to say. So it's really, when you sit here, someone is exposed to you, right? And you can ask those questions directly. And in the real life, it doesn't really often get there. So cool.
Yeah. No,
Thank you again. Thank you very much.
Conversation.